Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back. This is a bit of a spontaneous thingy, and I got one of my favorite people from the Tolkien YouTuber world, or Tolkien tuber, as I call these people, who partly became a bit of a family. I think we all feel like that. Lexi's here today to talk, or to rather react spontaneously, because I literally asked her like a second ago if we can do this. So we're not super prepared, but I think Lexi felt like I yesterday when the 30 or whatever second teaser trailer dropped. And I think we're so nerdy, we need to talk with somebody about what we saw and what that could mean for the upcoming show. This will be a long one, but yeah, let's talk away. And if you know Lexi and Helen, it might take a bit longer than planned. Lexi, so introduce yourself first. I'll have all your details, obviously, linked below, and I think people know you who are watching my channel. I hope so. If not, what are you doing with your life, people?
Yeah, we generated a few hours worth of content over the past few months together. So, hello, Helen's audience. I'm Lexi. My internet name is Girl Next Gondor. I have a YouTube channel called Girl Next Gondor. You can also find me on Twitter at Girl Next Gondor. You can see there's a theme here. I like to be sarcastic about Tolkien, and I also like elves a lot. Like a lot.
Mhm. Like a
Like a
lot.
lot.
This is why we like each other. So to keep the word like, oh my god! So first reaction to this trailer thingy, um, everybody was shitting on the okay. Why is it the Lord of the Rings? And then kind of repeating everything again, the Rings of Power. Did you so title like it, hate it, meh?
The title it's not what's going to determine whether it's a success or a failure, whether I like it or not. I think they have to include the Lord of the Rings. It's been known as Lord of the Rings on Prime since they announced the project, basically. They've been referring to it as that. That's the title that, casual fans or like people with an actual life outside of this would recognize. They'll know, it's if they did like the Second Age or even Middle Earth, people might not get it. But if you say Lord of the Rings, then people are going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was that thing with those short people and the, creepy goblin thing. And yeah, so I can't see that they could have really avoided using the Lord of the Rings. And then,
Yeah.
people were kind of saying this isn't based on a book, or this isn't, they're making stuff up, and there's no like one story that they can point to and say we're basing it on that. But in
Mhm.
the Silmarillion, there's this section called Of the Rings of Power and the Third Age that
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
summarizes the what happens between the end of the First Age and what we
Mhm.
would call the Silmarillion, and then goes
Mhm.
into all the changes that brought about the Third Age. So that's
Mhm.
kind of, that's the bridge that they're talking about, is how did we
Yeah.
get here? How did we get to the position where we have Gondor and Arnor and the rings and the ring wraiths and everything? That's the origin story.
Mhm.
So I kind of liked that move toward naming
Mhm.
it after the sort of base text. Now, obviously, they're going to have to draw in a lot more information from other texts because of
Yeah.
the Rings of Power in the Third Age is teeny tiny. But I liked that they were, keeping up with the idea that we had The Hobbit, which was based on the book The Hobbit, and we had
Keep it simple, people, you
yeah.
know?
I mean, we did have 3 Hobbit movies, but I think they were all part of the same story or franchise or whatever. And then they had The Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, which was broken out into its parts that were named based
Yeah.
on the parts that the book was broken into. And so then
Yeah.
moving now toward associating it back with the literary text, I don't mind that
Mhm.
necessarily. It's a
Mhm.
little
Same.
clunky, but it's got a good meaning behind it, I think.
Yeah, I do so. And so for me, it was a relief reading that and seeing the images they showed us, because a lot of people reported that due to, set leaks and whatnot, again, shout out to Fellowship of Fans, because a lot what he did report is actually, I mean, it's literally set photos he has. So obviously, these are facts. But a lot of people I heard, and I'm not too deep into this and I don't really report on it, but I heard that it will be, about the drowning and the end days of Numenor, which
Mhm.
is the end of the Second Age, right? Or almost the end of the Second Age. And the Forging of the Rings is in 1500, so literally mid Second Age. So that's like 1,500 years in between. And I was very worried that they wouldn't show, and these were the reports that they wouldn't show the forging. And for me, the forging is very much the shift from the first Dark Lord to the second Dark Lord coming into true power and making his power move, right? And showing, oh, I'm not just a shadow. I'm not just, some evil arising in the east. I have an agenda. I have rings. Like for me, this was always the shift from Morgoth to Sauron. And so I would not like if they would have left it out, or if it would be just a sequence. And I don't think it will be just like the epilogue of the whole thing. If they show this in the teaser trailer, yes, obviously, you're right. The thing is, everybody knows the Lord of the Rings, and this was our prologue, what Galadriel gave us 20 years ago, right? And introduced this world to us. And maybe they're doing that again, because in the Lord of the Rings they just talked for 2, 3, 4 minutes about it. I don't think so. So for me, it was a relief to know they will show this time period. But now my question is, because I do think what people reported, that we will see Ar-Pharazôn.
And
So
Isildur was
and
another one
Isildur,
rumored.
yeah.
And his sister.
So yeah, and the thing is, yeah, oh yeah, the sister, yeah. And Galadriel being in Numenor, so okay. But that means either, so in one season they cover 1,500 years, or they go against the years and the chronicles of the kings, because Ar-Pharazôn was the 25th, yeah,
25th, I
25th
think,
king,
ruler.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
so I mean, we know that. So help me out here, because like you, I kind of like, I keep up with the rumors, and obviously, like,
yeah,
I let Fellowship of Fans kind of,
yeah.
loop me in when he's like, "Have you heard about this?" I was like, "No," and he's like, "We talked about this 6 months ago." I was like, "I
I
did
know.
not pay attention to that."
I know.
Fill me
Because
in
it's so
quickly.
much. It's so
Oh yeah,
much.
and then
Yeah.
they have to take this one picture and then analyze it for every little detail, because up until this point Amazon has really like let the fans and the obsessive people like us do the marketing for them, essentially,
I
and
know. I
run the
know.
hype train, which is
We're
kind of a
unpaid.
smart move, I think.
I know. Yeah, I
I
like
mean, I
it.
think it's a little bit, maybe seems a little bit more organic that way, even though I'm sure the algorithm is tickling us all into position, but which I'm fine with. But yeah, so this is the series name, right? This is
Yes.
Lord of the Rings of the Rings of Power, and we know
Yeah.
that this is going to be a multi-season
Yeah, I think 5 seasons.
show.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
five
like
seasons. I
they've
don't.
at least committed to,
Yeah,
yeah, somewhere in the
yeah,
neighborhood of 5 seasons. And
yeah,
the whole idea is they're dropping tons and tons of money on this IP because they want it to be the next Game of Thrones, immersive, culturally,
yeah. Jeff wants to have
uniting.
his own,
Yes.
Dragon Queen. Yeah.
That is the watchword. Oh my gosh, Sauron is a dragon queen. Oh.
No, that
He's
was
still my heart.
Melkor. He's a vampire or cat, whatever.
Uh,
Former cat.
Cat girl Sauron. Okay, this is getting pretty
Prince of
cursed.
Prince of Cats. No, yeah,
But
no, I don't think they will change for season 2. They won't have a new. So this
right.
is. I don't think that. I think this
So
is
I
the
mean,
overall IP.
the Rings of Power is the uniting theme, and that's like a great point you made, that we've already heard the story where Sauron has the rings and he controls the wraiths and he's in the east
Yeah,
and he's mysterious, but we don't ever actually get to see him as a character. Like, that was Lord of the Rings, basically, that
yeah,
story. Not that you
yeah,
couldn't tell an interesting story set in that time period, but I think one of the big appeals for people, and one of the goals really, is for people who maybe they've read Lord of the Rings but they didn't get super into the Silmarillion, which is
yeah.
understandable. Or
What? What are you
they
talking
I
about? I
know,
have no
right?
idea.
This is my light bedtime reading. I don't have to have like 2 boxes of tissues by me.
There's no
So
death, war, and destruction.
Yeah, or even the people who watched the films and are super into the films, and like you said, we get 3 minutes of Galadriel's narration about,
Yeah,
okay, there were rings and
yeah,
like they were made and it was bad. It's like, well, why were they bad? When were they made? Who are these elves that we see? Like we see
yeah,
Galadriel, but we see these other elves holding their rings, and it's like those aren't in the like who we don't put names to them ever.
yeah.
So
No.
I think one of the big draws here, for not only for people who know all the lore and are excited to see it adapted, but for people who maybe have questions after the
Yeah,
condensed version presented in the movies
yeah,
and in the
yeah,
actual book themselves,
yeah,
is like to see the explanation for all of that, and I think that's
yeah.
going to be an interesting direction. So I can see
Hmm.
how in 5 or 6 seasons, and I think I know you've had various podcasts and discussions and things where you've talked to people about what that could look like
Hmm.
narratively, where you could see,
Hmm.
for example, the whole Aldarian thing where he comes to the aid of
Yeah.
Gil-galad, and that could be one season, and then we could move from there into, okay, now we've skipped 500 years, Galadriel's
Hmm.
still around, hopefully Elrond's
Hmm.
still around. I'm really hoping they lean into him.
Hmm.
But then,
Excellent.
now there's a new king, and like maybe, you see a little kid in season one, and then in season two, he's like
Yeah.
old and decrepit, and it's like, oh wow, like you can get into that
Hmm.
whole aging and mortality and elves versus men thing that
Hmm.
really explains the whole
Hmm.
draw of the rings of power. And the one ring even is that it
Hmm.
one of the things it offers you is you don't have to
Yeah.
die if you don't want to, and men
Yeah.
get to the point where they really don't want to die, like
She
which
literally
like
says
okay.
that in the beginning. She says men doomed to die, but
Yeah.
they're doomed to die, and therefore they don't want to have that fate, so they take the ring. Obviously, yeah,
Well, and
yeah,
that's the downfall of Numenor as well, is,
yeah,
let's go to
yeah,
the undying lands. I hear
yeah.
they are undying. Something about the name, I
Well,
don't know, makes me think that they're associated with immortality.
yeah, well, somebody might have lied to you, but anyway.
Yeah. Catboy
Yeah, never,
lied.
yeah, never catboy lied, never trust the hot guys, like no. Anyway, yeah, but my question is, the thing is, yes, 5 seasons, but you as a viewer, and I always stress that you want to. I've worked in TV production for a few years, and the things what you learn is the viewer wants to feel with somebody. They want to go on a hero's journey with you. They want to see you fail, succeed, redeem, whatever, right? But the
Mm.
thing is, these people die, as you said. So even if you are Arpharazon, even if you are a Numenorian, you live maximum 400 whatever years, right? And
Yeah.
you can't. So they need to play with a timeline, otherwise it would be just flashbacks, but then you just see flashbacks of people you will never see again later on, because you won't have the same flashbacks for seasons after, like that
No, you
doesn't make
wouldn't.
any sense. You need a linear time. I mean, yes,
You
flashbacks,
can
but
play with it, but you do need a through line.
yes, look at The Witcher season 1. All the weird, flashbacks
Yeah.
and what the f up timeline thingy that didn't work for the viewers, and I think they don't want to do that. So it's just the question of, so what do they show us then? Because you need people as well throughout the 5 seasons that are there from season 1 till season 5, right?
Yeah.
So they can't all die every season, and then you have new humans coming in, and the only constant is Galadriel and Elrond and Círdan and whoever they cast for the elves. Those
Right,
are the
because
only
then
people you know.
we'd never care about the humans, or it would be
Yes.
really hard to. And
Yeah.
if the humans are, I mean, it's really their story. It's the
This is.
shifting from the elves being dominant
Yeah.
to, in the second age, thinking they're going to be dominant and then finding out that they're sadly mistaken. This is another place where I think that, and I don't know if this is again going to come to fruition, but leaning on Sauron's narrative. And I know we've seen, again,
I
leaks
hope
and
they will do
suppositions,
that.
nothing
I hope.
official. But yeah, leaning on Sauron and his sort of corruption, and then from
Yeah.
there going into, we've heard stories. I don't know how I feel about them, and I don't really see how. I'm not trying to doom and gloom it. I
No.
try to withhold judgment and maintain optimism even when
See.
I see things that make me go
Yeah.
like, oh, that sounds like it's going to be hard to work in. We'll have to see how they do it. Um,
Yeah.
but
With a
stories about there
comet coming to
being
the earth. Yeah.
Yeah, the comet guy, whoever he is, and then the guy who's like, there's some sort of orc leader that we see extensively, who could be, this tension between him and Sauron, apparently, reportedly, supposedly.
Oh, I
Um,
never heard that. News to
oh
me.
yeah,
Okay,
there's yes,
I
yeah,
need
you need
to.
to.
Okay,
Well, yeah, see,
okay.
like I the comet guy I thought was a joke for the first like 3 weeks.
Hope
Like
so.
I thought he was like a meme, and then I was like, oh no, wait, I think this is actually like a serious like leak or rumor. But then
Okay.
the other thing is they've mentioned that there's some guy who's not an orc but who's in charge of orcs, who's not Sauron. Supposedly is not Sauron.
So something like the
So
mouth of Sauron, or like a Black
so
Numenorean leader,
right. Or one of the things that they've suggested is some sort of corrupted elf, which
corrupted elf. I would like that.
yeah, I mean the only thing I can think of is
It's Eol
I
reborn.
well I could see it being Myglaine. I always thought that like yeah,
Oh,
conveniently
Megan.
he falls like to his death. Oh sure, like we all know what happens when people fall out of the screen. It's like they actually survive and show up to
I know.
ages later. But obviously that's one of those Tolkien is spinning in his grave kind of theories.
Hmm.
If they pull it off, will be interesting to see. Anyway, yeah, so leaning into the evil side of things and kind of showing how,
I want that. Yeah.
yeah, even if they don't really show him as terribly sympathetic, if they can lean into
No.
showing how Sauron is a character
Yeah.
and he has a plan kind of, and you
Hmm.
can see by the end of the third age he's just like this he's become another Morgoth. He's just this
Yeah.
evil
Yeah.
pulsing force. But
Hmm.
especially in the second age, even after he's decided to embrace the darkness,
Yeah.
he still, has an agenda and he has setbacks and he gets frustrated and he cackles like a maniac during certain spoilerific events. And
I know, and you will see that, and it will be easier to portray when he takes on human, elf, whatever form he will shapeshift into. Because, you can
yes,
see, you will see his face, you will see him interact in a different way. When you're just the Dark Lord in that armor of his, you can't see anything, right? It's like, like the Mandalorian with a helmet on, like you
yeah,
don't
you
see
can't really.
emotions. And I do think him showing him as Anatar and him being in Numenor, which, yeah, he was in Numenor in fair form. And I think that will open the opportunity to give him a real story, backstory, to show emotions and all that, and to yeah, he's not just that mysterious evil eye or character. I think it's really, yeah, and I want that, and I don't want it to be about him, and it won't be about him. Mm, but I mean, the Lord of the Rings, in a way, this is about him, right?
Yeah. And
So
that's another one of those things that I mean, I think there's maybe a throwaway line in the films and then there's like two sentences early on in the books even, but the book is
yeah,
called The Lord
the
of
Lord,
the
I
Rings
know,
and people are like, "Well, like who is that even? Is that Frodo?" It's like not really.
yeah,
Arguably, if you wanted to do like a double meaning kind
no,
of thing, but no, the Lord of the Rings is Sauron, and
yes, yeah,
that's I think another nice tie-in because again, one of the draws is who is Sauron? Why is he evil? Like
yeah,
he's just this eyeball on a stick kind of a thing, and it's like no, he
hmm,
actually like he has a plan.
hmm.
Oh, kitty.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
They are lurking around me here, waiting for their moment to shine. My cats are literally
mm,
stage. Yeah. Well, anyway. Yeah. So again, it totally gave me hope, and I don't want to say I called it, but I said it would be so epic. I don't know. I said that like. I think when the picture dropped and we had the flashback to Aman, to the Undying Lands, with the two trees of Valinor, and I said, "Oh my God, it would be so epic if we would get, the guy because everybody thought it's Galadriel, right?
yeah.
Galadriel introduced us into the world of the Third Age, into the Lord of the Rings. It would be so cool if she is, the angle that now tells us the story about the new and I don't know, this probably won't be the prologue, but it's cool that they gave us this again to introduce us to the new show. And I heard, people saying they didn't like the voice, and I loved it. I
I
really
don't mind it.
liked. She sounds mysterious. Yes, she's not Kate Blanchett, but I don't,
That's
I
the
don't
thing
need
that
her.
people are going to have to let go of is a lot
Yes.
of people are very
Yeah.
emotionally attached, and like, so am I. Like, I think of Aragorn, I
Yeah.
see him as kind of a blurry Vigo. I'm sorry, and I
I
know Tolkien
know.
said he didn't have a beard. I typically see him with a beard. I just like the
It's
films were
totally fine.
very
Yeah.
crucial for a lot of
Yeah.
people aesthetically, and they got
Yeah.
really attached to seeing
Yeah.
those characters portrayed in
Yeah.
that way, which is understandable, but you also have to accept that like that's not,
Yeah.
they can't possibly replicate that. I mean, they tried in The Hobbit, and one of the things that was kind of sad about that was you could see all of the actors, understandably, 10 or
Yeah.
15 years on, and it was supposed to be set like 60 years in the past, and you
I
could just kind
know.
of see that there was a lot of, that they
Hmm.
they were a little bit more weary and experienced when they should have been more
Yeah.
sparkling and maybe a little bit more naive even.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that people are going to have to, if you want to enjoy this series, one of the
Yeah.
things that's kind of a prerequisite is to like give it a chance. There's going to be a different aesthetic. There's going to be different portrayals of the characters,
Yeah.
even like their characteristics and mannerisms are going to change. You don't
Hmm.
want people to do like a stage play of
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings 2 Electric Boogaloo kind of thing. So I think
No.
Morvith is like, I don't, the voice, I'm like if she says her lines well, I didn't pay much attention to the sound of the voice itself. I thought she did a fine job, but I wasn't
Yeah.
like, honed in on that. But I think she has the Galadriel, the young Galadriel like
Yeah.
look. She's got kind of this sort of fierceness
Yeah.
that's there. It's like very delicate,
But
but also
also
very
this,
like intense.
yes, but also this witchy mysteriousness, and she has
Yeah.
that in her voice, being Welsh.
Yeah.
I think she's Yeah, you
I
you
believe
you
she's
can
Welsh.
clear. Yeah, so you clearly hear she has a kind of foreign, mysterious, whatever accent. This is why, like,
Ish.
literally, people tweeted me, Helen sounds like your voice, because I like to roll the R's as well.
Yeah. I would if I
So
could. My tongue is lame.
I know. Well, you're American, so just give
That's
up.
probably why. Just pronounce it with the back of my tongue and
It doesn't work for you
no,
guys.
it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Live in Spain or in Switzerland for a while, then you you
Yeah.
you you will learn how to do it. No, and I like that. And the thing is, Galadriel herself went through a first of all, she's old AF. She's really, really
Mm-hmm.
old, right? So she went through a
By Lord of the
journey
Rings,
herself.
she's
Yeah, 6,000 years old in solar
and
years ish.
that's the point of her character in Lord of the Rings is she's got this sadness and this wisdom, and that's why
Yeah,
she's so beloved. Is that and that then her ultimate
yeah,
test is like, hey, do you want to go back? Would you do things differently? Do you want to
yeah,
take your last chance to claim the power that you've wanted since you were a little girl? And she says, no, I've learned better. I just want to
yeah.
go home.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, she went through this journey, so she changed. She changed from a character. I'm not the same person, I'm in my 30s, outing me here. But I'm not the same girl I was with 18, right? And she was, yeah, Elsa. 18 is not 18 is probably like, I don't know, 2000 years in elven years, but
Yeah.
the thing is, she's not that girl anymore, so she can be portrayed by another actress and have other different traits, because I think her portrayal will be a bit more, the man maiden, the tall. Maybe
Yeah.
she will go into fighting, but that doesn't go against a Galadriel character. That goes against a character, just knowing the movies.
It
That doesn't go against a character portrayed in the Silmarillion and in other, extended materials.
it would be worse if she was this ethereal calm. I mean, she's
Yeah,
already she's a smart girl. She doesn't need to be like this
yeah,
callow,
no,
dumb person. I'm hoping they make Elrond really really dumb, by the way, in the second age. I just want to see him like totally messing up. Not dumb, but like I want to see him,
what?
being awkward and like this,
What?
oh, Elrond,
Why?
oh,
But
I
he
love okay.
wasn't.
Well,
What?
he was in the Second Age. He wasn't. No, so here's the thing. Elrond in the Third Age, he's basically Galadriel tier, right? He's been around for the whole party, and he's grown
He's
up
like a
and been to war.
librarian. He knows
Yeah,
it
and
all.
he's
He
a
read it all.
healer. He's devoted
Yeah.
his life to healing, which typically
Yeah.
means that in that case the elves tend to stay away from even hunting activities, anything, nothing too
Yeah.
violent. He's devoted himself to healing and nurturing.
Yeah.
But in the Second Age, he's Gil-galad's herald, which is an important thing, and he's the one who gets sent to the battle. It's like, oh my gosh, Eregion's
Yes.
falling, Elrond, go take care of that.
I know. Yeah.
And he's also he was born at the very end of the First Age, so in the Second Age he is that 1000, 2000, and he's had
Young,
this horrifically traumatic life, and he doesn't really have a family or a house or a society's been totally destroyed, and they're trying to rebuild it. So
he's a refugee at the beginning of his life.
He's a chronic refugee.
But why does it
has
make him
weird?
But
Not
why
dumb.
is he dumb? Okay.
I shouldn't have used the word dumb. I meant I meant inexperienced, making mistakes.
Okay,
dumb in the sense of
Okay.
a really precocious but really confused teenager, early 20s.
I get you.
Not lacking in raw intelligence, but dumb in the way that in the way that 18-year-olds are dumb.
Get you.
Lacking experience and just making mistakes that no one with more experience would have made.
Okay, so the only weird thing might be, wait, when is Celebrian born? Is she born in the Third Age, beginning of the Third Age?
No, because Elrond sees her, so she's born, because this is that weird thing where when did Galadriel and Celeborn get married? It depends on what book version you read.
Yes.
I think she was around probably pretty early in the Second Age, because Elrond sees her on the way to the Last Alliance, and he falls in love with her, but typical elf, he doesn't speak because he thinks the world is about to end. And then it's when he returns.
Very weird. But that is weird then, Lexi. Yeah, I remember.
Why is that weird?
Now. Because
I agree, but why?
Because they have to include Celebrian then, and look at the actors who portray Elrond and Morfydd Clark. She even looks a bit older than the Elrond guy.
Yeah.
And then she has a daughter, and Elrond is with a daughter. How young is the daughter then? Is she like a 12-year-old child, or what? That is just. I'm just thinking.
I see
visually
what you're saying.
Here. That is very strange.
It is. Yeah. So because
Morfydd Clark looks 25.
I know. Well, but elves look 25.
I know.
It's weird because you could have an elf who's 2,000 years older than you and still just fine prime marriage material. Poor Indis, I think, is at least one generation younger than Finwë.
Yeah.
And
normally they marry young in life.
Early in their lifespan. Yeah. Even based on Nature of Middle-earth math, which is just it blows my mind every time I try to figure it out. But even by that standard, Elrond marries late during the end of the period where he would be. And Tolkien, was trying to retcon this because he'd already published the appendices where he said everything happened. But
but they don't marry during wartime, and there was always a war going on.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It makes sense in context why he held off as long as he did. I think Celebrian is around probably pretty early on in the Second Age. I don't know if they're going to portray her. I hope they do. It would be cool. But I hope they portray all the elves, and I know that probably some of them are not going to get the screen time I want. The point is, they don't need to lean into the romance aspect of it.
Yeah.
Until the very end, if they don't want to, because they, their children are born in the beginning of the Third Age.
Yeah, later.
Relatively beginning of the Third Age. So they can just show maybe show them on screen at the same time, and Elrond looks extremely uncomfortable. That would make me happy.
Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to say about the actual trailer that we saw, the clip.
Let's come back to our topic, please.
Yeah. We can edit all this out later. The visuals of it, right? So we're looking down on this landscape and these deep canyons and things, and we're seeing lava, but also molten rock, and then it becomes clear that it's a landscape, but it's also a form that's being flooded with metal, so a reference to that whole forging thing. So that was interesting. And then the fact that you're zoomed in and you're seeing all the loops and things fill out, and then they zoom out, and then you see the the title, and it's like
Yeah.
steaming as it cools, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was an interesting combination of the idea that, so first of all, it's cool that they had that combination of, equating the landscape with the forging of the ring, because the whole idea is
Yeah.
that this is the force that's going to end up shaping the actual, like, even, physical as well as political and social world
Yeah.
of Middle Earth. Like, this, it's gonna,
And it
spoiler
led to
alert,
the fall. Yeah.
continents are going to sink over this. So it, the uniting
Yeah.
of those visually was clever. But
Yeah.
also it reminded me very strongly of the Game of Thrones opening, because you're up and you're seeing, you're zooming around and you're like zoomed in super close. And then at the end, it kind of like
Yeah.
pulls away, not in a bad way, but I just could kind of see that there was a
Yeah.
little bit of an homage to that
Yeah.
style.
You have very similar interests for The Witcher, for The Wheel of Time. I don't know if you've seen it. They all look very
Do they
Game of
all? Yeah.
Thronesy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And it is kind of, it's just
No,
like, that's the visual trend now.
it's more the fantasy approach of it
Yeah.
for me. Yeah. But no. I totally see what you mean. But I liked what you said, because it's not just the ring forging, it's the world falling apart, cracking up. It's Numenor drowning,
That
because
thing when they
when
talk about the men in the
yeah,
water.
yeah,
Yeah, that was really, I
yeah.
was like, I know what that's a
Uh-huh.
reference to.
Hashtag foreshadowing. Hashtag spoiler.
Hashtag foreshadowing spoilers in the teaser trailer.
I know. No need to read the book, but buy the book on Amazon, please, people. Yeah, no, I like that as well, and yeah, I think it was. It didn't tell too much for me. It was rather, and again, we are super geeks. We analyze like every,
Mm-hmm.
what we just did. I think for the casual viewer, um, it means okay, this looks pretty good. Music sounds good, chick sounds really hot. Apparently,
Right.
she's an elf. This will be cool. This will be about war. This will be about fighting, because you kind of
Mm-hmm.
assume by the music and by the visuals. And I think for the casual viewer, they are happy, and I think we are, because we now know this very important event in the Second Age that changed a lot. That gave the ring wraiths the power to change the world, to
Mm-hmm.
fight wars. That gave Sauron the power, the One Ring. So this forging is so important, and because it set up all the chess players for the game, right? The rings,
Yeah.
they now had rings, right? And the power dynamic shifts, and somebody becomes dwarfs who were not good nor evil. They just did their thing. They are now greedy. They could be maybe influenced by Sauron. Will they be? Like, this is really
Yeah.
cool, and for me this is such an important time, and I like that we will see it. And this seems to be, judging by the title, we don't know, one of the main events we will see. So I'm glad it's not just Numenor, because I was a bit worried about that. Yes, I love men, but you and I love
I
elves
know.
more.
I know. Give me Gil-galad, give me Glorfindel, give me Eristor, give me Círdan, give
I
me
would love
Galdor of the
Endor.
Havens. Like, yeah,
I
like,
know.
I don't. Who's Haldir's dad? Give me Haldir's dad. I don't.
Yeah.
Just tied up.
Give me. Give me. Okay, cool.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh,
think,
Thranduil.
yeah.
Sorry, I just like Orifer and Thranduil could be in this, and that would be so cool.
My God, but who can be hotter? Because like, who's a DILF? Like, who can be hotter than
No,
Thranduil?
just
Like,
show Orifer and then make Thranduil like baby. Make him like a
no.
pimply teenager. Well, then you don't have to worry about making Thranduil be hot. You can make him a Legolas, and it's fine. And then Orifer can be the one who's like
No.
bringing the dig. I know, Lee
But I
Pace.
want Lee Pace. I mean,
Well, okay, so now we're
please be
getting into.
free.
I
Anyway.
want Thranduil, but I also want Lee Pace. Like, they're different. They happen to intersect for one shining moment in time, and
Leave me alone, Lexi. Anyway,
I'm not judging. I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat, and it's sailing to Valinor because that's where the elves are.
I know. That there was a super cool shot. Like, I saw that years ago in a geek shop, and it said, "F this shit, I'm sailing to Valinor," and I
I
always
need
wanted
that.
that shirt. I wanted to. Anyway, so Lexi and I are still hopeful, positive. We also, we question things, and that is perfectly fine. Like a meteor coming, like why, what is happening? That
Yeah.
is fine, but I'm not somebody who's dooming anything
Yeah.
she
My
hasn't seen.
my whole approach this whole time has been with reservations, cautiously optimistic. And
Yeah,
if I know that there's going to be changes, if the changes turn out to be in the service of
yeah,
a good story and they can still keep it close enough that the same
yeah,
themes are coming through and it's still recognizably in this
yeah,
world,
yeah,
I will accept changes. I don't
yeah,
reject changes just because, like, oh, well, it says here that that actually happened 200 years ago. It's like, yeah, but it works really well to work it into
yeah,
the narrative here, so let them do it.
yeah. Same.
I mean, I certainly have my reservations and my little tummy nodding concerns, but at this point, all we have seen is officially, all we have seen
Yeah,
is, that picture that they leaked of
yeah,
somebody in Valinor looking at the trees, which blew all our minds. And then we've seen the title, which is Of the Rings of Power. And that
yeah,
is, I think, for you and I, a hopeful sign that they are going to at least,
yeah.
lean heavily on referencing and depicting and developing that time period and that, like,
Hmm.
that very crucial event and what it means. And that's,
Hmm.
that's where they're at least including a big chunk of that, even
Yeah,
if we don't exactly know how they're going to work all these timelines together. So
yeah.
it's
And giving
hopeful.
the Dark Lord a backstory and a face,
Yes.
literally a face. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I want to see how he turned the Nazgul. This is literally all I want to see. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did he do it? Who are
Man,
they?
imagine being like, a great king or scholar or warrior of men, and like that whole process of going from, okay, you don't really trust this Anatar, like these are the best that men have to offer, so
Yeah,
they're not just dummies that he suckers. He
no,
he the process of being corrupted by the ring, and you get it, and it's got to be awesome for a while, and you rise to power and you can do all these great things. Typically with the rings we see that their temptation is, what good could I do with this? And then just the slow decay as you end up like Bilbo, like your life is stretching on and there's less and less life for each year
yeah,
that you acquire, and then you realize, like, oh, I'm there are limits here and I'm being controlled and I can't escape it, and I, like, gosh, like that
yeah.
alone would be
But it's
such a
also the
good.
other side. Yes, I do think some of the rings he portrayed them as that to some of the ring rates, but the three Black
Mm.
Numenoreans, he must have told them this will enhance your power. You can do more evil deeds because you can't
Well,
convince a for him, the evil deeds will be good deeds, probably.
right, yeah,
So
yeah. Well, I mean, even for Sauron, who's totally evil, he still thinks that he's on the
this is
right
good.
side.
Yes, of
From his
course. Yeah,
perspective, and like I can see that. He wants things to be organized. He wants them to go smoothly.
yeah,
Like, who doesn't
yeah.
on some level want that? Like, I don't want to kill people to achieve that most days, but it's.
No, no, but I think there will be different fractions of the
Mm-hmm.
Nazgul. There will be really good people he
Yeah.
convinced to become, the ring raids, but there will be also bad people from the beginning, the three Black Numenoreans, I would assume, that will Kamul maybe as well, whatever,
Yeah.
that were right from the get-go. So maybe he had another form. Maybe he didn't go there as Anatar or whoever, but he
Mm-hmm.
showed himself in the form of, whatever, maybe the later form he used. So I think there will be different Nazgul, or
I
men,
hope.
kings of men, whatever,
Yeah.
and I think that is really interesting to see. I hope they show that. Maybe that's another spin-off.
Yeah, well,
They are
it's like you
setting
said,
up.
even in 5 or 6 seasons with a huge cast and all the money in the world, and hundreds of thousands of years potentially to cover, you've
Yeah.
still got to have a story with, or
Mm,
even 2 or 3 stories, but with a through line and with one
yeah.
character. And kind of one
Yeah.
of my hopes even is that, just not to sound like, not to sound too greedy, but that this will kind of turn into a situation where we see the more limited spin-offs if this sort of bigger series does well. Like I'm kind of half and half with like I don't necessarily want it to be Marvelized, if you will. I don't know that we need 10 years of 2 movies a year and they get just increasingly wacky and overly complicated, but I would like to see this as a jumping off point for some of those stories that aren't main stories but could still be really interesting, even if maybe a single season or a spin-off film or something.
And I do think they will have this, and then they will learn, what do people want to see? Do they want to see more dragons? Should we go into the first age then? Yes, please buy the rights to the Fall of Gondolin. Give me everything that my heart desires.
I don't know if it's possible. I'm so nervous about the first stage.
People said this is not possible, and then Jeff made it possible. So let's see. So I think they will see what people like, and then adapt and that's cool. I don't need every story to be told in this show now. It's fine. Give me 25 years so my children can start watching that.
Keep the flame alive. I mean, the Star Wars prequels, I think, were kind of our Hobbit moment. So this is going to be our, hopefully our good timeline version of the.
So Tauriel was basically Jar Jar Binks. I confirm this.
See now, Tauriel. I have such feelings about Tauriel.
No, we can't talk about this now, Lexi.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Don't get me started on Tauriel because we've already turned a 10-minute thing into 40 minutes.
It should be 10 minutes. What? Okay, anyway. Lexi and Helen.
Obviously, we have a lot of thoughts.
Yes, Lexi and Helen might continue this. And when we learn more, and then we go on hop on Lexi's channel and tell you everything about our thoughts there in a 14-hour video,
14-hour live stream,
just like Chris does. Like seriously, Chris is the worst. I recorded two days ago with Chris, and I told him I have a yoga class to teach in 2 hours. Can we do this in less than whatever? We planned 1 hour, and then Chris and I talked for over 2 hours. And this is always and with you it also
is.
With other people, you run out of topics, and you're like, okay.
Thank
you for coming. Bye.
But we could keep going and going, definitely. And that's the thing with Chris. We got to get him to do it more frequently so he can do 5 2-hour streams instead of 1 20-hour. Just the man's stamina, he just blows us all away.
I know. What's he doesn't even sleep. He does it at 3 a.m. our German time. So I'm like, Chris, go to bed. Anyway,
he must juice her. Like he must be taking like shots of ginger extract and I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's
kale. He must eat a lot of kale.
Maybe he's a Nazgul.
I hear that's good. He could have you ever seen him and Sarah in the same room at the same time?
No.
Neither have I. I'm just saying it's suspicious.
He mentioned he's wearing a ring, what's happening. Anyway. Good. So people, Lexi and Helen, we're onto this. We will keep talking about this, and we hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to Lexi if you haven't done that yet. Otherwise, you're blocked. And that's it. Oh, I had a super crazy comment earlier, but I forgot. We'll
circle back.
Talk about that in the net. No. I forgot which one. I wanted to mention that here, but I forgot. Anyway, ignore me. We hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, my lovelies, and till the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye. Did we stop it?